The skies over New Shanghai darkened at precisely 14:36 local time. Dr. Elena Reyes was midway through her quantum transmission presentation when the audience's attention shifted to the windows behind her. She turned to see massive crystalline structures materializing in the stratosphere, geometric impossibilities that hurt the eyes if observed too long. "It seems," Elena said with remarkable composure, "that someone has noticed our little experiment." 3 weeks earlier, Elena's basement laboratory at MIT had achieved what theoretical physicists had deemed impossible: a controlled quantum displacement that moved a particle faster than light. The particle had traveled 4.3 light seconds to the moon and back instantaneously. The world celebrated humanity's first tentative step toward the stars. No one expected that the stars would immediately step back. The Galactic Consortium's diplomatic contingent arrived within hours. 17 species, each more alien than the last. The insectoid Silari, with compound eyes that perceived 11 dimensions. The crystalline Teth, whose silicon bodies resonated with audible harmonics as they moved. The hyper-evolved Meridians, whose skin shifted through spectral ranges beyond human perception. And 14 others, each representing millennia of divergent evolution across the galaxy. In the hastily arranged United Nations emergency session, the Xilari ambassador clicked his mandibles in what his translator indicated was surprise. "Your FTL principles," the mechanical voice intoned while displaying Elena's equations on floating holographic screens, "are remarkably elegant for a species your age. Most achieve this only after guided development." The momentary pride in the human delegation faded as the consortium representatives unanimously classified Earth as a Tier 3 civilization, centuries behind their lowest member species. Their offer came with unmistakable finality. Earth could join galactic society under consortium guidance, with military oversight and strict technology restrictions, or remain isolated, while consortium beacons redirected all interstellar traffic away from the Sol system. In a narrow vote -267 to 254, Earth's fractured governments accepted the terms. "This is unconscionable," Elena fumed 2 days later, pacing her new laboratory aboard the consortium mothership. As humanity's reluctant scientific liaison, she had access to technology that seemed magical: matter reconfiguration, gravity manipulation, consciousness transfer. Yet she noticed something peculiar about the various alien scientists. Their work followed rigid, predictable patterns. When faced with an unexpected result, they consulted established protocols rather than improvising new approaches. Granted temporary access to the scientific archives, Elena made a stunning discovery. Despite their million-year head start, consortium technology hadn't fundamentally advanced in over 6 centuries. They'd refined the same ideas to perfection, but created nothing truly new. "They've completely specialized," she whispered to her personal recorder. "Each species is brilliant within their domain, but incapable of lateral thinking. They're creatively sterile." She transmitted her encrypted findings back to Earth, where humanity was already beginning to chafe under consortium restrictions. The message ended with 3 simple words that would eventually change the course of galactic history: "We are different." 6 months after first contact, the consortium embassy in Geneva erupted into frenzied activity. Elena was reviewing modified quantum equations when emergency klaxons shattered the usually serene atmosphere. Holographic displays materialized throughout the building, showing a catastrophic space-time rupture near Proxima Centauri. The anomaly resembled a wound in reality, a tear in the fabric of existence that pulsed with impossible colors. 3 consortium colony worlds housing millions of beings from different species lay in its expanding path. The most sophisticated consortium vessels, city-sized machines that harnessed artificial stars, hovered uselessly at the perimeter as their containment fields failed one after another. "Increase power to the resonance barriers by 30%, ordered the Meridian Counselor, his skin shifting through warning patterns of crimson and ultraviolet. "We already tried 40%, countered the Teth representative, her crystalline form vibrating with stress harmonics. The anomaly just expands faster in response. Alina watched the consortium representatives debate variations of the same approach. Always more power, more containment, more brute force. In a moment of frustration, she stepped forward, breaking sacred protocol. "You're trying to overpower chaos with order," she interrupted. "What if you need to speak its language instead?" The chamber fell silent. The towering Ridian counselor loomed over her, skin pulsing with indignation at the breach of etiquette. "Elaborate, human. Your containment fields are too uniform, too perfect," Alina explained, manipulating the holographic display to demonstrate. "Look at the anomaly's pattern. It's almost responsive. What if it's not random destruction but a system we don't understand yet?" Against furious opposition from senior consortium scientists, the Council granted Alina's hastily assembled team access to an outdated but functional vessel. Engineering prodigy Kayambeki, infamous for building a functioning fusion reactor in his university dorm using salvaged components, joined her along with 3 other brilliant but unconventional human scientists. "This is what we're working with," Kai whistled as they boarded the antiquated ship. "I've seen more advanced technology in museum exhibits." The consortium engineers watched in horror as the humans disassembled and reconfigured their precisely calibrated equipment, creating a hodgepodge of modified devices that violated countless consortium engineering principles. This approach lacks methodological rigor, the supervising Solari scientist clicked disapprovingly. "These are not approved adaptations. Approved adaptations haven't solved the problem," Alina countered, making final adjustments to their makeshift resonance emitter, a hybrid of consortium quantum technology and human theoretical physics. As their vessel, christened Audacity by Kai, broke Earth orbit, protests erupted worldwide. View screens showed crowds gathered in major cities, some celebrating their potential saviors, others burning effigies labeled alien collaborators. The most radical groups had already begun sabotaging consortium installations, spreading manifestos declaring that salvation through human ingenuity, not alien oversight, was humanity's only path to maintaining independence. "No pressure," Kai quipped as they prepared for the FTL jump toward the expanding catastrophe. "We're just carrying the future of human autonomy on our shoulders." Alina's eyes remained fixed on the anomaly's readings. "And maybe," she whispered, "something far more important that no one has recognized yet." The Audacity emerged from FTL near the anomaly, immediately buffeted by gravitational waves that sent warning signals screaming through the ship's systems. Through the observation dome, the team witnessed reality itself torn apart, a wound in spacetime that pulsed with colors that shouldn't exist, geometries that made the mind rebel. "Sweet mother of science," whispered Dr. Aisha Okafor, their quantum theorist, as readings flooded her console. "These readings contradict each other. The anomaly exists and doesn't exist simultaneously." Alina studied the massive consortium containment ships positioned around the anomaly's perimeter. Each vessel, a marvel of engineering perfection, poured stabilizing energy into the rift according to precise mathematical formulas. "They're killing it with kindness," Kai muttered, analyzing energy transfer patterns. "Look at this correlation." Alina's eyes widened as the data crystallized into understanding. The anomaly's expansion perfectly synchronized with each consortium energy pulse. They're feeding it. It's not chaotic, it's hungry. While the supervising consortium scientist documented their primitive analytical methods with obvious disdain, the human team transformed the ship's cramped laboratory into a chaotic workshop. They violated 17 separate consortium safety protocols in the first hour alone. "What exactly are you attempting to build?" asked the Tilari observer, mandibles clicking with distress as Kai cannibalized critical ship systems. "A conversation starter," Alina replied, rewiring a consortium quantum harmonizer with components from human communication technology. The resulting device resembled a brass and crystal jellyfish trailing optical filaments, an abomination by consortium engineering standards. "This isn't science," The consortium scientists finally exploded when they presented their creation, its primitive mysticism and desperate guesswork. Sometimes good science looks like magic to those who don't understand it, Aisha countered, making final calibrations. Against direct orders, Alina deployed their device during the next anomaly surge. It emitted an eerie harmonic pattern based not on consortium containment principles, but on the anomaly's own fluctuations. Everyone aboard experienced a moment of disorientation as the frequencies resonated through their consciousness, triggering vivid sensory memories. Childhood scenes, first loves, moments of profound discovery. The anomaly responded. Its chaotic patterns briefly synchronized with their resonance field before both began shifting together, like dance partners learning from each other. Proximity alarms from the consortium fleet screamed warnings as their vessels detected patterns they couldn't explain. Impossible, the consortium scientist whispered, instrument panels confirming a 30% reduction in the anomaly's growth rate. His exoskeleton changed color, a physiological response his species couldn't control. You've accomplished with junkyard scraps what our greatest minds couldn't achieve with unlimited resources. We didn't try to force it into submission, Alina explained, watching the resonance patterns evolve. We listened first, then spoke its language. For the first time in recorded interaction between humans and the consortium, the supervising scientist lowered his posture in a gesture of deference. Perhaps, he admitted reluctantly, there is something to learn from your species' unorthodox approach. As they refined their technique, Alina noticed something extraordinary in the harmonics. The anomaly wasn't just responding. It was communicating complex mathematical sequences. What had seemed like chaos was revealing itself as order of a higher dimension, one that the consortium's rigid thinking had never recognized. It's not destroying space-time, she realized with growing wonder. It's trying to transform it. News of the human breakthrough spread through subspace channels faster than officially permitted. 3 days after their initial success, a sleek obsidian vessel silently materialized alongside the Audacity. Unlike the crystalline geometries of standard consortium ships, this craft resembled liquid darkness given form. The Orvani, whispered the Solari observer, his exoskeleton paling to ash gray, a sign of instinctive deference. They almost never leave their core systems. The Orvani were a founding consortium species so advanced they rarely acknowledged lesser civilizations. Their representatives glided aboard on hovering platforms, bodies concealed within mercury-like shells that rippled and flowed with their thoughts. We wish to observe, announced their leader without introduction. The voice bypassed translation devices, appearing directly in everyone's mind. The lead Orvani, who identified herself as Nexus, watched the human teen with unblinking silver eyes that reflected everything and revealed nothing. Your minds are disordered, Nexus observed as Alina and Kai argued over their next modification. Yet you extract patterns from chaos. Fascinating methodology. For 3 days, the Orvani silently documented everything. How the physicists debated with linguists about wave patterns, how engineers and biologists collaborated on organic interfaces, how the team constantly questioned their own assumptions. When Aisha proposed a theory that contradicted Alina's findings, the Orvani shells rippled with visible surprise at their willingness to discard established thinking. Their progress accelerated until a catastrophic shift in the anomaly created a resonance cascade. Emergency sirens wailed as systems failed shipwide. Radiation containment breach in engineering, the computer announced. Fatal exposure imminent. In the chaos, Kai grabbed components from 3 different systems, ripped the personal shield generator from the nearest Orvani observer, ignoring their violent protest, and sprinted toward the engineering bay. The principles of polarized energy transfer prohibit this configuration. The consortium engineer shouted as Kai welded incompatible technologies together, rerouting plasma conduits through biological neural tissue salvaged from medical equipment. Good thing I never studied those principles then, Kai replied, activating his impossible hybrid shield. The radiation levels dropped instantly. The Orvani observer's mercury shell rippled with what might have been shock or acquisition. Meanwhile on Earth, humanity's engineers had turned reverse engineering consortium technology into a global competition. University students improved alien power cells during weekend hackathons. A 13-year-old girl in Lagos reprogrammed a consortium medical scanner to create three-dimensional art that adjusted to viewers' emotional states. Most alarmingly to the consortium observers, a small team in Nairobi had developed a prototype that improved consortium FTL efficiency by 23%, an advancement that took member species centuries to achieve. The lead engineer, when questioned about the breakthrough, simply shrugged. "We tried something that your textbooks said wouldn't work." In an emergency session, the consortium's inner council reviewed humanity's classification. The vote was unanimous and troubling. Humans were no longer considered an interesting curiosity. They represented a potential threat to the established order of a million years. Their innovation lacks proper foundation, argued the Meridian representative, yet achieves results our methodologies cannot explain. If this continues unchecked, the Orvani counselor remained silent during the debate, mercury form perfectly still. But those closest to her noted how her shell occasionally formed patterns resembling predatory configurations, the first sign of emotion any Orvani had displayed in council for 3,000 years. Elena floated inside a direct observation pod just meters from the anomaly's event horizon. What had once filled her with terror now inspired wonder as she recorded patterns that defied conventional physics. The anomaly's pulses had stabilized into complex sequences that repeated with subtle variations, like a language seeking the right dialect to be understood. "There's a pattern in the temporal fluctuations," Elena transmitted to the team. "It's cyclic but evolving. Prime numbers, then Fibonacci sequences, then something far more complex." When their resonance device communicated with the anomaly, it responded with embedded mathematical sequences of increasing complexity. "It's not just responding," Elena whispered, watching new patterns emerge. "It's answering." For 3 sleepless days, Elena compiled data from their interactions, comparing them with consortium records she wasn't supposed to access. In the ship's conference room, she finally presented her findings to the combined human consortium team. "This isn't a natural disaster," she declared, projecting a 3-dimensional comparison showing identical mathematical structures embedded in 15 different anomalies recorded throughout consortium history. "These are artificial constructs." The evidence was irrefutable. The anomalies matched each other too precisely for coincidence. "They've been trying to communicate for millennia," Elena continued, highlighting response patterns, but the consortium kept attempting to silence them with containment fields. She named the creators predecessors, an ancient species that appeared to have seeded the galaxy with these technological trials. "These aren't weapons or accidents. They're tests, challenges designed to identify worthy successors." When Elena presented her findings to the consortium science directorate, the chamber erupted in dismissive hisses and electromagnetic pulses of derision. "Human mysticism," bellowed the Urutan representative, his gelatinous form vibrating with indignation. "Next you'll claim the stars themselves are conscious." Only the Orvani delegation remained silent, their mercury shells perfectly still, reflecting everything and revealing nothing. That night, Elena found Nexus waiting in her quarters aboard the research station, the Orvani shell configured to block all surveillance. "For 9,000 years, we have suspected what you discovered in days," Nexus confessed, her form rippling with emotional patterns Elena couldn't interpret. "Our species reached the pinnacle of analytical science millennia ago, but these anomalies defy our understanding. We lack something you possess naturally." The Orvani extended a quicksilver appendage that displayed classified files of hundreds of anomalies across consortium space, all resonating with the same patterns. "Your intuition paired with our resources could unlock the predecessor's legacy before the consortium council realizes its importance." Elena studied the data with growing excitement, not noticing how Nexus's shell subtly shifted to display predatory patterns as she proposed their private alliance. If these anomalies are tests, Alina theorized, examining coordinates of known appearances, then their positions might form a pattern across the galaxy. When she overlaid the locations, they aligned into a complex multidimensional geometric structure, a galactic-scale puzzle box waiting to be solved. The consortium has been encountering these tests for millennia, Alina realized, always responding with the same approach. We're the first to recognize them as communication rather than threat. What she didn't see was Nexus transmitting their conversation through a quantum channel undetectable to human technology. The message reached the Orvani High Command instantly. Humans have the key we've sought for millennia. Resource acquisition protocols authorized. As Alina worked through the night, mapping the connections between anomalies across the galaxy, she felt a sense of destiny. Humanity had stumbled onto the galactic stage at precisely the right moment, bringing just the right kind of thinking to solve a puzzle older than human civilization itself. What she couldn't know was that the Orvani had reached the same conclusion thousands of years ago. They simply lacked the final piece, the innovative spark that humanity provided. And they had no intention of sharing the predecessor's legacy with unproven newcomers. The Orvani-controlled research station orbiting the anomaly became a gilded prison, while Alina and her team made unprecedented breakthroughs, deciphering the predecessor language embedded in the anomaly's pulses. Communication with Earth mysteriously faltered. Nexus assured them it was temporal interference from the anomaly's expanding harmonics, but Kai grew suspicious when the human technicians were restricted from the communication array. Something's not right, Kai whispered during their brief rest cycle. Have you noticed the consortium representatives are gone? Only Orvani guards now. During a scheduled maintenance cycle, Kai accessed the station's communication hub under the pretense of recalibrating their resonance device. Hidden beneath diagnostic panels, he discovered Orvani quantum dampeners actively blocking all outgoing signals. The truth crystallized with cold clarity. The Orvani didn't want partners. They wanted to control humanity's innovative potential exclusively. When Kai attempted to warn Alina, Nexus sprung her trap. The station's security doors sealed simultaneously as the Orvani's Mercury shell reconfigured into a more imposing form. Your species would waste this discovery sharing it freely. Nexus's voice resonated with ancient arrogance that belied her earlier collegiality. Under our guidance, human innovation will serve proper masters. The station's systems began failing, life support fluctuating, reactor temperature rising beyond safety parameters. The Orvani evacuation was swift and methodical. Through emergency channels, Nexus delivered her final message. Your species' recklessness will justify the quarantine of Earth. The consortium will place humans under our direct supervision, for everyone's safety. As radiation alarms screamed warning, Alina's team gathered in the central laboratory, surrounded by failing technology and dwindling oxygen. They've sabotaged everything to make it look like human error, Aisha confirmed, checking diagnostics. We have maybe 20 minutes before reactor containment fails. Alina studied the ship's schematics with growing desperation until her gaze fell upon their resonance device, a hybrid technology they used to communicate with the anomaly. If the predecessors could speak to space-time, she said slowly, maybe they could speak to technology built on the same principles. It was a desperate gamble, but they had nothing to lose. The team reconfigured the damaged systems into an impromptu network that violated every principle of consortium engineering. They connected biological neural tissue to crystalline computing cores, powered by plasma conduits that shouldn't function together. This is impossible, the lone consortium engineer trapped with them protested. These systems aren't compatible. Compatibility is just a conversation waiting to happen, Kai replied, making final connections. When they activated their hybrid network, channeling energy patterns that mirrored the anomaly's language, something extraordinary happened. The station's systems didn't just stabilize, they transformed. The communication array amplified beyond design parameters, drawing power directly from the anomaly itself. Alina broadcast not just evidence of the Orvani sabotage, but their complete predecessor research, unlocked encryption patterns, translation algorithms, and theoretical applications to every species simultaneously across all consortium channels. The quantum encryption the Orvani had considered unbreakable fell before human cryptographers who approached it as a puzzle rather than a security protocol. Within hours, the consortium erupted in political chaos. 7 mid-tier species, long chafing under Orvani dominance, immediately dispatched diplomatic vessels to Earth with offers of independent alliances. The Xilari ambassador's message captured the moment perfectly. For millennia, we accepted our place in the hierarchy. Now humans show us that innovation needs no permission. As their makeshift systems kept the station functioning far beyond what should have been possible, Alina received thousands of incoming messages from scientists across the galaxy. Questions, theories, collaborative proposals. The predecessor puzzle was no longer controlled by the Orvani selective access. It had become a galactic conversation. They thought isolating us would contain human innovation, Elena told her exhausted but triumphant team. They didn't realize that adaptation to isolation is what made us innovative in the first place. The predecessor anomalies awakened simultaneously across the galaxy. 47 tiers in the fabric of reality pulsing in perfect synchronization. The pattern was unmistakable. A countdown. Alina's translations of the embedded mathematical sequences revealed an ancient protocol triggered by their research. The final verification, a test to determine if galactic civilization deserved the predecessor's full legacy. When massive anomalies began merging, swallowing entire moons as they grew, panic engulfed the consortium. 17 inhabited systems faced obliteration within days. The emergency council session descended into chaos. Ancient alliances fractured as founding species blamed each other while mid-tier civilizations demanded equal voice in the crisis. The Orvani delegation's demand for exclusive control was met with unprecedented resistance, while the insectoid Xilari collective threatened secession. "We have followed your protocols for millennia," clicked the Xilari representative, compound eyes flashing with ultraviolet signals of defiance. "Now we face extinction regardless." When the Meridian Councilor's ceremonial staff shattered, a symbolic severance of million-year treaties, Alina stepped into the silence that followed. "Your hierarchy itself is the failure," she declared through an unauthorized translation note. "The predecessors didn't create tests for the strongest species. They created them for whoever could unite knowledge across artificial boundaries." Her proposal was revolutionary. A collaborative emergency response where expertise, not political rank, determined authority. Species that had never been permitted to speak in council found humans actively seeking their input. The Urutans' understanding of biological computing, the crystalline Teth's resonance physics, the aquatic Nemeri's fluid dynamics, all vital pieces of a puzzle no single species could solve alone. In orbital shipyards around Saturn, an impossible fleet took shape. Vessels combining technologies from 11 species created interfaces that shouldn't function yet achieved perfect synergy. Engineers who once required formal permissions to collaborate now worked side by side, breaking boundaries with every shared insight. The Urutan contributed living biological circuits that the Xilari connected to crystalline computing cores, while human programmers wrote adaptive algorithms that allowed these incompatible systems to communicate through principles derived from Earth music theory. "Harmony isn't about identical notes," explained the human composer who developed the translation matrix. "It's about complementary differences creating something greater than the parts." The fleet deployed a network of quantum resonators that didn't just contain the anomalies, they spoke to them in their own language. For the first time in recorded galactic history, the anomalies responded coherently. The tests that for eons registered only failure now pulsed with new patterns, acknowledgement, and something even the translation matrices couldn't fully capture: anticipation. As the United Fleet positioned itself at the nexus point, where the merging anomalies would converge, Alina monitored the communication patterns from Prometheus Unbound, Earth's flagship. The countdown was approaching 0. Either their approach would succeed, or they would witness the destruction of trillions of lives across 17 systems. The predecessors weren't looking for perfect beings, Alina transmitted to the fleet. They were looking for beings who understood that perfection comes from unity of diverse perspectives. As the final countdown sequence initiated, the fleet activated their harmonic network. Each ship contributed its unique resonance, different tones that together created perfect harmony. The human innovation wasn't a technology but a philosophy, adaptation through collaboration, strength through diversity. The merged anomalies pulsed one final time. And then, transformation began. What had appeared as destruction revealed itself as metamorphosis. The predecessor tests hadn't been designed to find worthy inheritors of their technology, but to identify civilizations capable of transcending the limitations of species-centric thinking. Across the fleet, beings of all species watched in awe as the anomalies began to reshape themselves into something entirely new, a gateway to the next stage of galactic evolution. The unified fleet converged at the heart of the merging anomalies, where space-time itself had become a maelstrom of impossibility. Alina stood on the command deck of Earth's flagship, Prometheus Unbound, surrounded by representatives from 17 species, former enemies now united in desperate cooperation. As their quantum resonance network achieved perfect harmony with the anomalies, reality itself seemed to hold its breath. Then, transformation. The destructive vortices collapsed inward, reforming into massive crystalline structures that spanned kilometers, forming a perfect dodecahedron around the fleet. Ancient mechanisms dormant for millions of years awakened. Within the structures, vast archives materialized, technology beyond comprehension, star maps to galaxies never observed, and physics that made the consortium's most advanced science seem primitive. The final predecessor message unfolded not as text, but as understanding directly implanted in the minds of all present. We sought not a single master species, but the moment when diversity would become strength rather than division. No single approach to knowledge is complete. Only through unity of perspective can infinity be mastered. The revelation stunned the consortium delegation. The Orvani representative's mercury shell lost cohesion momentarily as she grasped the truth. For millions of years, we perfected our specialization, believing ourselves superior. We should have been seeking connection instead. 1 year later, the Galactic Concord, formerly the Consortium, held its first fully democratic assembly in Earth's orbit. The rigid tier system that defined galactic civilization for eons had dissolved. The Xilari Premier, once forbidden from addressing the High Council, now served as elected chair. Specialist knowledge remained valued, but cross-disciplinary innovation had become the new currency of progress. Humanity found itself not at the top of a hierarchy, but at crucial connection points throughout galactic civilization. Masters not of other species but of seeing patterns others missed, connecting ideas others would keep separate, and imagining possibilities where others saw only established limits. In the newly constructed Infinity Observatory on Luna, Alina stood before representatives of 217 species, most newly discovered since the opening of the predecessor archives. Together they activated the first Concord Expedition Fleet, ships designed collaboratively to explore beyond the galactic rim. As the fleet accelerated into uncharted darkness, Alina saw not just humanity's future among the stars, but a future where all sentient life transcended its origins through shared innovation. The observatory's crystal dome filled with light as the new vessels transitioned to FTL. Not the crude human design from just 2 years before, nor the refined but stagnant consortium technology, but something entirely newborn from the collaboration of all. "We are all predecessors now," Alina whispered as the ships vanished into infinity. "And our journey has just begun." A young Xilari scientist approached her, compound eyes shifting in patterns that indicated profound respect. "Your species changed everything," he clicked softly. "How did you know what approach would work when our most advanced civilizations had failed for millennia?" Alina smiled, watching the stars where the expedition fleet had disappeared. We didn't know. Humans never do. We just tried what hasn't been attempted yet. Our greatest strength isn't superior knowledge. It's our comfort with not knowing, our willingness to fail differently each time until we succeed. As new anomalies appeared at the edge of known space, not threats but invitations to further exploration, ships of the Galactic Concord prepared for the next great adventure. Each vessel carried crews from dozens of species, each contributing unique perspectives. At the heart of their mission planning were humans, not as commanders but as connectors, the catalysts that transformed diverse specialization into unified innovation. The masters of infinity weren't those who controlled the most knowledge or wielded the greatest power. They were those who could see beyond established boundaries, who could forge connections between disparate ideas, who could transform limitation into opportunity through collaborative innovation. In that, humanity had no equal. Not because they were superior, but because they had evolved in isolation, forced to adapt through creativity rather than perfection. Their gift to the galaxy wasn't domination but liberation, showing all species that the true mastery of infinity came not from controlling the universe, but from endless reinvention through diverse collaboration. The end.